The officer's prejudiced arrest of a judge, wrong man, the physical restraint of someone who holds judicial authority, gavel and handcuffs, and the ultimate revelation of power reversal, all while maintaining the tension. It was a quiet evening in downtown Atlanta when Judge Marcus Washington walked home from his weekly dinner at Maxwell's restaurant. The streetlights cast long shadows on the sidewalk as he strolled through the upscale neighborhood he'd called home for the past 15 years. His casual attire, a polo shirt and khaki pants, was a welcome change from his usual judicial robes. As he turned onto Maple Street, a police cruiser slowed beside him, its headlights painting him in harsh white light. Officers Brady and Sullivan had been patrolling the area, responding to reports of recent break-ins. They watched the lone black man walking through what they considered an unexpected neighborhood. Without probable cause beyond their own prejudices, they pulled over and emerged from their vehicle, hands hovering near their weapons. Marcus remained calm as they approached, already recognizing a situation he'd experienced too many times before his appointment to the bench. The interaction quickly devolved despite Marcus's composed attempts to explain that he lived just 3 houses away. Officer Brady, a veteran of 12 years on the force, dismissed his explanations with practiced contempt. "Sure you live here, and I'm the president," he sneered, while Officer Sullivan began the pat-down. When Marcus calmly cited his Fourth Amendment rights, Brady's face hardened. "Oh, we got ourselves a street lawyer here, Sullivan," he mocked, roughly pulling Marcus's arms behind his back. The cold steel of handcuffs bit into Marcus's wrists as neighbors peeked through their curtains, some recording on their phones, others turning away. The officers forced him into the back of their patrol car, ignoring his repeated attempts to identify himself as a federal judge. At the station, they processed him like any other perpetrator, their thinly veiled racial slurs mixing with procedural jargon. In courtroom 237, 3 weeks after the wrongful arrest. The courtroom is a traditional federal court setting with its rich wooden panels, the American flag beside the judge's bench, and rows of polished benches for observers. Officers Brady and Sullivan enter with their customary confidence. They're dressed in pressed uniforms, badges gleaming, exhibiting the casual swagger of veterans who've testified in countless cases before. The officer's mindset. Brady and Sullivan arrive expecting nothing more than a routine hearing. In their minds, this is just another case of resisting arrest that will likely end in a quick plea deal. They've done this hundreds of times: walk in, testify about the suspect's uncooperative behavior, watch another defendant accept a plea rather than fight the system. Their attitude reflects a deeper problem. They've become desensitized to the human impact of their actions, viewing defendants as cases rather than people. The dramatic turn. The mood shift begins with small details. The unusual tension in the bailiff's voice as they announce, "All rise for the Honorable Judge Marcus Washington." The sharp sound of the door opening from the judge's chambers. The steady, measured footsteps approaching. When Judge Washington emerges in his judicial robes, time seems to freeze. The transformation from their suspect to the authority figure before them creates a cognitive disconnect that physically affects the officers. Physical and emotional reactions. Officer Brady's face drains of color, his confident posture crumbling as recognition hits. Sullivan's hand, which had been casually resting on the prosecution's table, suddenly grips the wood edge. Their eyes widen, throats go dry, and that swagger evaporates instantly. The courtroom, picking up on this dramatic shift, falls into a heavy silence. Some observers who know the backstory lean forward in their seats, while others glance between the officers and the judge, sensing the electric tension, but not yet understanding its source. Judge Washington's composure. The judge's entrance is dignified and controlled. He shows no hint of satisfaction or revenge in his demeanor, though he's keenly aware of the officer's discomfort. He takes his seat with the same professional poise he's demonstrated throughout his career. His hands don't shake as he arranges his papers. His voice remains steady as he calls the court to order. The recusal. Instead of using his position for retribution, Judge Washington handles the situation with impeccable professional ethics. He formally recuses himself, stating for the record, Given that I am the defendant in this case, having been wrongfully arrested by officers Brady and Sullivan on the evening of date, I must recuse myself from these proceedings. His words are measured, factual, and devoid of emotion, yet they land like thunderbolts in the silent courtroom. The following months brought sweeping changes to the department. Internal Affairs launched a thorough investigation, spurred by body camera footage that left no doubt about the officer's misconduct. Judge Washington's formal complaint focused not on revenge, but on systematic reform. He pushed for enhanced training programs and community outreach initiatives, turning his humiliation into a catalyst for change. A year later, Officer Brady stood in Judge Washington's courtroom again, this time as a witness in an unrelated case. The tension of their past encounter had evolved into something unexpected: mutual respect. Brady's testimony showed a new awareness of bias and privilege, his words carefully chosen to reflect the training he'd undergone. As he left the witness stand, he caught the judge's eye and nodded slightly, acknowledging the distance they'd both traveled. After the court adjourned, Judge Washington sat in his chambers, reviewing a new department-wide policy on bias training that he'd helped develop. On his desk lay a letter from Officer Sullivan, who'd since left the force to work in community relations. The judge smiled, knowing that while change comes slowly, it comes surely when people are willing to learn from their mistakes. His wrongful arrest had become more than just another story of injustice. It had become a bridge to understanding, a step toward healing the deep wounds between law enforcement and the community they served.